So we broadcast live from the Deer District last year several times during the Bucks championship run, and it was incredible energy. It was awesome. There's long been talk about replicating that out at American Family Field, and some other stadiums across the country, baseball stadiums, have done this. Could we have a beer district surrounding American Family Field? Robin Palm is a planner for the Village of Mount Pleasant, and he has a lot of information about this. He's a Milwaukee guy. Robin, thanks for joining us in the studio.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
How feasible is this? Could this happen? I have so many questions for you, but how could this happen?
Of course. What's actually kind of surprising is that it hasn't happened already.
Yes,
because,
I agree.
Really, if you look around all of the professional leagues, I would say more of them have a sort of entertainment district next to their arenas and parks than don't. I think the way the Brewers is just parking, I think that's the exception rather than the rule right now.
The Brewers, I just want to get to the elephant in the room before we talk about how cool this would be. The Brewers are lukewarm would be a nice way to put it, to this idea. They're not very interested in this, are they?
They have not really responded very warmly or even effusively or anything like that with that. But I think it's basically right now they are pursuing other funding opportunities, and maybe they're secretly hoping for a revival of the 5-county sales tax, which I think anybody can tell them is just not going to happen.
Yeah, that's not going to happen with the current legislature of Madison. There's no appetite for that. People here don't want it. No. So could this be another mechanism for them to raise money in addition to having something really cool if they were to build something like the Bucks generate a lot of revenue in the Deer District?
That's exactly the whole point of the proposal, is that they've been floating, asking for $100 million in stadium renovations. And this is a way to not only raise that money by themselves, for themselves, it's also to give back and really develop the area around the stadium district and make it something that, people want to go to when there's not a Brewers game around. I think it is a fantastic, almost once in a generation opportunity for the city.
Robin, you said, I'm just so surprised this hasn't been done yet, or it hasn't, and I am too. I think we've seen the Titletown district up north. We've seen the Bucks Deer district. What would a Brewers beer district potentially look like here in Milwaukee? We know we have that huge parking lot in that area, but what could it look like?
Well, I can draw comparables to other districts. I think one of the easiest is the Battery in Atlanta near Truist Park. That is a $400 million development over 400,000 square feet of space. Just to kind of spitball it, just the Brewers parking lots is 12 times that size. Wow. And then that is not even adding the space of the recently vacated Komatsu site, which is in the Village of West Milwaukee, right up the hill, and as well as the potential space that can be gained from the I-94 project and the stadium interchange. What it could look like is a mixed-use district. It could be, like live, work, play kind of things. There could be living spaces, there could be restaurants, and of course bars. My particular pet thing is to allow actual brew pubs there from around the state to kind of really drive home that this is a beer district.
I think it's an interesting proposal, obviously, but what would stop maybe a private investor or somebody else from taking over the Komatsu property and saying, we're going to build our own little thing here to try and fill in some of the gaps, really, if you think about it, from Potawatomi through Palermo's and where the Brewer Stadium is?
That's certainly on the table right now. West Milwaukee has already kind of rezoned and pitched that land as for this purpose. I think what is sort of preventing that is sort of the space from the Komatsu site to the actual ballpark. And with a proposal like this, utilizing some of the parking space, utilizing some of the space by changing the configuration of the roadways, you would have a more direct connection from that site to the stadium.
Because in essence, the Brewers could say, do what you want on the Komatsu site, but we're not agreeing to paths to the ballpark. We're not agreeing on easements that would allow people to go back and forth. They could be difficult if they wanted to.
Yeah, and then under the current configuration with 175 going through there, and there's a set of train tracks and Canal Street, it's actually quite difficult to walk from the Komatsu site to the stadium if you really wanted to. And that is something I'm suggesting to change.
All right, I want to ask you about the freeway, because there's a lot of money that's been talked about going in to do the freeway there. Some are saying just take it down, at least part of it, maybe we don't need. I want to ask you about the role that the freeway and the DOT play in all this after we take this quick break. We're talking to Robin Palm. He is the guy with a lot of detail on a really cool idea, and that's the beer district down near American Family Field. We'll be right back. It's 4:44 on WTMJ. We're talking about a potential beer district, a cool entertainment center similar to the Deer District, but out at American Family Field. Robin Palm is with us. He is a city planner by trade. Robin, thank you so much for being with us here in the studio.
It's awesome to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
So you think about that area out there, all the parking lots, I-75 coming in there, which they've talked about getting rid of anyhow. I guess my question is, when you think about the interstate and the role it plays out in that area, and the approvals that would be needed from a DOT perspective, how big a part of the equation is the interstate/DOT?
I think it's a very large part of the equation. And basically, the only thing that would seem to move the DOT as far as what they want planning on doing with the interchange and everything else is what the Brewers want to do. Because the current redesign of the stadium interchange essentially takes away an exit from Holly Road, the eastbound exits, and gives more exits to essentially that are straight to the Brewers parking lots. So if the Brewers say, hey, we would like to do something different, I'm almost positive the DOT would listen.
Bud Selig and his role in where Miller Park is today, I just called it Miller Park, where American Family Field is today. He got a lot of criticism that it was a selfish decision because he wanted parking. He didn't want it in downtown. He already had the land out there, all of that. And now it sits out there where there's nothing else surrounding it. Was that the right place to put the ballpark?
I think I would almost give an excuse that it was a different time. That back then everybody was talking about parking lot revenues and parking as the source of being able to just free money. You know, you just have a bunch of parking lots, charge people money to show up and just watch it roll in. Now it's development around the stadiums. It's capitalizing on the fact that you have 40,000 plus people there, 81 days a year. And that is instant traffic and instant frequenting of businesses. So it's easy.
Robin, I'm curious, this potentially could be a huge revenue generator for the city. It seems like a shoo-in with this beer district, but why hasn't it been done yet? Why would someone not be on board with this idea?
Well, I think it's kind of complicated by the fact of the ownership of the parking lot in the stadium itself, that it's owned by the Southeastern Wisconsin Professional Baseball District. I think that's the entire title. Yep. And that's a public entity. That entity was funded by the 5-county sales tax, which was politically very, very unpopular. That sales tax sunsetted. It went away August of last year. Now they're floating ideas about how to achieve funding to replace that, because they have a contract with the Brewers that the stadium needs to be in the top 25% of ballparks throughout the league, or the Brewers can basically cancel their lease. So they have a requirement to update the stadium, and they need money to do it. And the parking fees are just not cutting it. It's only $12 million a year that they're getting from parking, and the parking lot isn't even full.
You know, it makes me sad when I think that even in places that don't have real estate and really had to work hard to make this happen, like Wrigley Field, they've built this area around Wrigley Field and monetized a very small area, but with some really cool stuff, that there's not the will in some sectors here to get this done.
Yeah, I'm astonished myself. The area around Nationals Park in DC, when they decided to kind of revamp that, everybody was like, "What are you doing? This place is like an urban wasteland." Yeah. And looking at today, they call it the Navy Yard. It's popping. It's one of the hippest neighborhoods in Washington DC, and it's all started from a sort of a professional team that had a vision for the development around the stadium.
So you reached out to the Brewers to get a formal response. Tell me what the communication with the Brewers has been like.
I mean, it's really not much. I got a response back from Rick Schlesinger, the president of the operations side of the Brewers, that said, "Thank you for your email. We've received it." And they already have a study going on about, they're paying somebody to kind of research the possibilities of public funding. And I mean, they could just pay me $5 and I'll give them that answer in 5 minutes and be like, "Nope, you're not getting any. You need to earn it yourself."
The governor, the legislature, have you gotten any inkling how they would feel? They would need to be involved.
Yes, they would. And so the governor has been a pretty big proponent of the I-94 expansion, much to, I guess, the disagreement of Milwaukee County and city officials, but they have not really kind of weighed in on it. I know that some of the local county and city officials are actually really big on the idea.
If we're still doing this show 30 years from now, which God bless us all, I hope we are, and we have you on as a guest, are we going to talk about the early stages of the beer district and what you did? And here's why I bring it up. When I started at this radio station, I think it was Mayor Norquist at the time was doing everything he could to replace and revamp the concrete jungle near the Bradley Center, and everything got shot down. It made me wonder, how stuck in the mud is Milwaukee? Like, why can't anything get done in this vast urban wasteland? And that's what I wonder about with the area that we have with American Family Field. At some point, it's going to dawn on somebody, well, wait a minute here. Let's put this land to use.
I couldn't agree more. Really, Milwaukee has one of the biggest success stories in a freeway teardown in the United States. Our removal of the Park East has basically generated close to $1 billion in development for downtown. It's the reason why the Bucks are still here. It's the reason why everybody had such a great time during the Bucks championship run. We have another freeway that basically goes nowhere, that was never completed, will never be completed, and should be torn down to reconnect not only those communities, but offer the city like brand new land to offer to tax, as far as to be a cash-strapped city we have. And so we're basically letting that land go to waste in the current way. And we have such a great example in the Deer District and what happened there.
I fear that this is such a great idea. It would be so cool. It makes economic sense, but inertia is a real thing. And look into your crystal ball. If you had to bet the mortgage of your house that it gets done or it doesn't get done, where are you putting the mortgage? That it does or it doesn't?
I'm betting that it does. And because once they ask the public for money, the reality will set in, and they'll have to find another way to do it. And now it may not be the way that I've set it up. It may not be in conjunction with what the DOT plans, because they're a steam train full speed ahead, and may not incorporate how to do it the right way. And to do it the right way and the best way needs all of those pieces to come together now, not 10 years from now.
He is Robin Palm. This is very interesting stuff. I hope you're right. I like your optimism. I hope it gets done. Thank you so much for joining us in the studio, Robin. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much for having me.